Welcome on in. This is the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast, the Week 13 preview. I know Week 12 just ended mere hours ago, but we got a lot to get to. It's obviously a crazy week. We got Thanksgiving coming up. That means we got a feast of football on Thursday and Friday. How about that? And then a great slate the rest of the way on Sunday and Monday as well. So I'm your host, John McKechnie. That's Mario Puig, and we are going to run you through this whole slate, help you through this key week in the fantasy season. I know playoffs are rapidly approaching, so we got to get over the hump. We got to get into the dance. We got to win those championships, folks. So let's start things off in Detroit. We got the Lions. We got the Packers. I know the Lions are going to be wearing those old school uniforms. I haven't seen any updates on what the Packers are going to be rolling out there. But regardless, really good game. I think this is a really good just slate generally for Thanksgiving. I feel like we can get some duds in there once in a while, but I feel like all three of these games have a lot of intrigue to them. And we'll lead things off again in the Motor City. Detroit coming off is something wrong with Detroit? And then the Packers, of course, just took care of business against JJ McCarthy and the Vikings, and what's proving to be a tough first year starting for JJ McCarthy. So this one in the Dome, we know that the Packers had that loud victory over the Lions in week 1, Mario. Now that we're in week 13, how are things looking for this matchup with the Lions 2.5-point favorites?
It's a pretty contentious looking game. I think I don't know, especially with the Lions being so beat up in a lot of key spots. I don't know what a fair expectation for them would be. Green Bay, I think, obviously has some limitations, but and also I think it's an issue for Green Bay. And again, anytime they play the Lions, that the Packers are kind of dependent on a high volume power run game, and the Lions are just the absolute worst team to have to run that style of offense against, because they're going to always put two gap defensive tackles on the field, which basically mean like they have two guys that you kind of want to double team, but it's just obviously you can't just double team everybody. And Ali McNeil, Williams, Reeder make it tough to run. So it's a game where it could be a decent amount of slack on Jordan Love. And there's sometimes with Love where he seems like he's really figuring it out, or at least is, good at some version of good enough. Then there's other times where you're like, he's just going bozo mode. What is going on? And if he goes bozo mode, then, and if bozo mode is brought on more easily by like a stalled running game, it could be a little bit of a sort of dangerous spot for the Packers. But I think the Detroit secondary is straight corners anyway, are just straight up weak, especially the boundary reps. So Christian Watson kind of looks different this year. I don't even understand it, coming back from that ACL tear so late last year, and with such a long history of prior knee and hamstring issues. I thought Watson would have some sort of rust coming back, but he's definitely not looked rusty, and he's making catches that he never used to. Like, I don't know if I've seen Watson drop a pass yet this year, and back in the other years, it would happen pretty much every game with him. So This is a dangerous spot for the Detroit corners, and I think it's easier to imagine the Green Bay pass defense, specifically the corner personnel, playing well, getting good results, than the Detroit ones. So it's one of those things like I don't know. I don't know how much actual danger there is to Jordan Love, but like if he's as good as he's supposed to be, he should be able to put Detroit in some difficult spots, as long as they have Watson, Dobbs, and one of Golden or Wixon this one, because Detroit, I think there is basically something wrong with them. Is like that they have too many injuries, and there's too many spots with key spots with regression. It's like one offensive line replacement is in an offseason isn't a huge deal, but if the guy who's replacing the left guard gets hurt, and if you have a rookie at right guard and like three of them are playing injured, and you don't have Sam Laporta, you never did have much depth at receiver or tight end, so you got a guy like Brock Wright. I almost called him Block Wright because he normally just blocks, but with Sam Laporta being hurt, they had to throw to block. And now it's like this is a bunch of guys who just have to do more than they're supposed to by design.
Yeah, it is a banged up looking group there for Detroit right now. I mean, Khalif Raymond and Isaac Tesla both on the injury report, and Brock Wright on there as well. So we'll have to monitor those statuses. So less firepower to work with when it comes to Jared Goff. And then I'm sure you saw the Onion article. Tate Radlich is requested off for Thanksgiving. Um, no, didn't see that
I
one.
did not see that. Is there a thing that he's known for food wise or something?
No, I think it's
Was
just
there a food incident with Tate Ratledge?
it's just kind of he looks like a guy that
Okay.
would ask off of work for Thanksgiving as a Detroit Lion just so he could eat a lot.
Like I know about the Onion with the Prince Fielder series of like burritos in games and whatever, but I never heard of Tate Ratledge mythos.
I'll have to send that one over to you. But like he apparently like has gotten sent that a million times. The Detroit writers were grilling him about it last week. They were having a good laugh about it. But no, he'll be good. But otherwise, this is, I mean, the way that the Lions have struggled these last 2 weeks. I mean, they barely escaped against the Giants with Jameis Winston, and now admittedly a Jameis Winston team can come up and bite you once in a while, but they looked completely lost in that game against the Eagles as well. So I mean, I'm worried about this Lions team at its current
Yeah.
juncture, and I do think you draw up an interesting tension in this game where the Packers are at their best when they're running the ball, but you do have a really good opportunity to kind of get Jordan Love going here. And Jordan Love over the last month has averaged 10.7 fantasy points per game. So that's Carolina, Philly, Giants, and Vikings. Now in all,
Gotta hide him.
Yeah, in two of those games, he threw fewer than 25 pass attempts because the Packers could just get away with running the ball so well. But do you think that you were talking about Christian Watson? Do you think that the Packers really just try to go into this game testing that Detroit secondary?
I, I think that's I think that's definitely the easiest way. Just the same, Green Bay can't just totally abandon the run. They have to tackles out there, like make Detroit prove that they're gonna actually, try to sell out to stop the run. And if Detroit's showing you that look, then yeah, try to get some play action, downfield shots. Those corners are even the non-Arnold ones are probably liable to grab a little bit, get an illegal contact penalty, because that's just how the Lions kind of just coach them to be grabby. And I think if the run game is like giving Jordan Love just enough cover that you can kind of get Christian Watson in a situation, Christian Watson and Dobbs on the boundary, but only one high safety, like that kind of look, you could see a big play happening. So I don't know. I guess with Detroit, the ongoing fact will be it just kind of all falls on Jahmyr Gibbs to kind of figure it all out for the offense, because Goff needs a certain amount of shelter that isn't there right now. And so I think Jordan Love needs to make the open shots that he gets, but I don't think I don't think either quarterback really can get into a proper shootout scenario, and doesn't really want to either.
I'm not so sure either. And then lastly, let's take a look at the backfield. So Josh Jacobs estimated as a limited participant on Monday. So obviously we'll be keeping a close eye on that over the next 2 days in the lead up to kickoff. But if he is out there, given what happened to him against the Giants, do you feel like we're going to see somewhat of a limited workload, especially considering how good Emmanuel Wilson looked this past weekend?
It really could go either way, in my opinion. And Wilson has shown even before this year that he's at least like a 50 grade pure runner. Like if you were giving Emmanuel Wilson like a baseball scouting grade set of grades, it's maybe he's only like 40 or 45 grade for pass blocking, and maybe that's why he hasn't played that much. But the running is definitely real. Like Emmanuel Wilson with the ball from scrimmage is a really solid overall threat. So he can give them something, but I don't know if there's anything Detroit can do about sort of testing their blitz pickup when Wilson is on the field, and or betting that when Wilson's on the field, Green Bay's going to try to run it. You definitely would like to have Josh Jacobs' more varied set of threats. Specifically, Josh Jacobs being on the field doesn't tip off to the defense that either we're probably running it here, and B, if not, you might get a free shot at our quarterback if you send a timely blitz off the edge. Like you don't think you can't get away with thinking that way with Jacobs, but you might with Wilson. So I think Green Bay really does want Jacobs out there. It's if someone were saying like Wilson just fully replaces Jacobs, that's not quite right. It's more like when you're in a script where the run game is viable, Wilson will totally check the box. I just don't know if it's really going to be there that way against Detroit.
Yeah, I think that's a good look there. And then otherwise, newsflash: Jahmyr Gibbs, very good, very good. So
wild, yeah.
That was so sick on Sunday. If you
he's
I think that,
sorry, John. I think I might have a little bit of a delay or something, but Jahmyr Gibbs is doing the Chubb thing, but also even more in a way. Like specifically, it's like he's never going to average less than 5 yards a carry. He can't do it.
I think his performance on Sunday hadn't been done since Derrick Henry in 2018 or something, where he averaged over 14 yards a carry on more than 10 carries in a game. Like just preposterous stuff. When you're getting named with alongside prime Derrick Henry, I think you're doing just fine. So he'll certainly be a handful for this Packers defense on Thursday. You have a pick in this game before we move on?
Well, the one other thing about this matchup historically, not that this is a shock to anyone, but the Packers do tend to play the Lions quite markedly better at Lambeau, and the Lions tend to play the Packers markedly better at Ford Field or whatever it is. And this year, maybe because it's been a weird year where like they're both playoff environment mode for this week for where the records stand, like maybe those two, maybe the rule of like Green Bay gets worse in Detroit doesn't apply quite the same way. But Detroit, obviously, that they lost this one before, so maybe they're the ones who have more to prove. I don't know. It does feel, I guess I can say this, like it does feel like the Packers are more the team that they planned on being, despite the season not going the way they wanted it to quite yet. The Lions seem like they're more so like scrambling to patch a bunch of leaks in the boat with duct tape, and I don't know. It really is tough to call. I think I'll go with Green Bay, even though I don't feel comfortable doing it. I just feel like the Lions are down more guys, and that has to matter at a certain point.
Yeah, if the playoffs started today, the Lions would not be in the playoffs, which is just totally wild. That just goes to show the way the NFC is shaping up right now. It's it's a brawl out there. So I mean, just funky playoff picture left and right.
I gotta hammer the agenda. It is directly because of Jared Goff's contract and how much of their cap percentage they have to allocate toward one player. When that one player needs a certain sum of supporting cast to even be viable himself, and the number that you have to pay that quarterback in this NFL quarterback market is at a point where you can no longer also pay the sum of talent that you need for that player to have ever been worth anything in the first place. And you're seeing like, if the fortress is at all dinged up for Goff, he just kind of starts maybe not totally melting down, but he becomes a player who just point blank cannot help you out of this. You just need Jahmyr Gibbs to figure this all out. You need somebody else to figure this all out. And yeah, I don't think the Packers. I don't know. They obviously are paying Jordan Love quite a bit too, and they could have more help than they do. But I don't see any abject weaknesses in the Packers roster like I do like the corner and the wide receiver personnel for the Lions, and that's even if you take for a given that all their various injured offensive linemen are going to be okay here.
Yeah, it's a little top heavy, I think, with this Lions team. And Dan Campbell said after they lost to the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, like that could have been our window. And then you lose in that first game of the postseason last year against Washington, and now they're fighting for their playoff lives as we get into Thanksgiving week. So odd times in Detroit, and I thought the window would be open a little bit longer. I'm not closing it, but I didn't think it'd be looking quite like this at this stage. Let's get on down to Dallas. We got the Cowboys, 3.5-point dogs at home against the Chiefs. The Chiefs kind of saved their season a little bit this past weekend, but winning in overtime against Indianapolis, whereas the Cowboys, we'll get to the Eagles here shortly, but how about it?
Yeah, very odd. In a way, it was kind of typical of Dallas because again, like the rule with them is sort of whatever the consensus or like most objectively reasonable expectation for them is, they subvert it somehow. And in this case, it was like, well, Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball that well, but against Dallas, everyone can, and the Eagles' defense, of course, is so much better. So yeah, Dallas will lose, and then 21-0 or whatever it was. You're like, yep, knew it, and then wait, the rule is triggering. Watch out. We expected something and we shouldn't have. We believed we knew more than we did, and they somehow beat the Eagles precisely because no one really thought they would, and had kind of like taken an understanding victory lap a little too early. But the rule still applies, and if people are starting to get starting to suspect something like, well, maybe Dallas is okay this time, though. They have, I think, maybe figured it all out. This time, seriously, they did it. That's when it snaps back the other way, and it makes sense with the matchup here too. I think the Chiefs are just kind of like a bad matchup for Dallas, and not to say Dallas can't make a game of it, not to say that with Dak, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and the complementary pieces, that is a group you would expect to have at least occasional big games, even against tough defenses, and but that it's in Dallas instead of Arrowhead is important too. So I expect the Chiefs to win, but maybe I don't know. The reason I'm picking the Chiefs to win is basically just I am going back to the whole thing about Dallas's defense. It still does suck, and the Chiefs' defense doesn't suck. So Mahomes should be pretty clean in this game.
I'm thinking so as well. I'm not taking too much away from the last 2 weeks as far as the Dallas defense is concerned. Like how they've looked post trade deadline. Obviously, one of those games was against the Raiders, so that
Right.
certainly helped things. I think Quinn Williams definitely really helps that defensive front, but
Yeah.
I still think this is a Chiefs team that I think is kind of on a mission. They're in a weird spot. They're not usually in backs to the wall type of mode. Certainly not during the regular season, but for them to fight back last week against Indianapolis, I feel pretty strongly about them in this setup against Dallas too. And I think the corollary about your expectations versus reality when it comes to the Cowboys, I think is going to ring true again, because people are pretty hyped on them after this past week, but I think we'll get a little dose of reality here via Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Let's finish out our Thursday rundown here. We got the Bengals going into Baltimore. This is the first time that they've matched up this year. The Ravens are 7-point favorites. And we've got some bad on bad going on, and we'll get to Joe Burrow here momentarily, but the Ravens offense has been totally stuck in the mud for the last 3 weeks, I would say. And I think a good bit of that has to do with Lamar Jackson just being, fairly under 100%. He was, not practicing yesterday with a toe, or estimated to not be practicing with a toe issue. That's added on to a knee injury and a ankle injury and a hamstring issue that he's had this year. So it's been a lot of bumps and bruises for Lamar Jackson. So tough Ravens offense as far as how they're performing of late versus a Bengals defense that just loves giving up points and yards.
This is a weird one for me, at least. I also found that spread a little surprising. I would normally feel like if Lamar were even 85%, I would normally say like, oh well, then yeah, then they're gonna win like, I don't know, 38-28 or something. But if Lamar Jackson can't so much as throw 25 passes because he's just kind of unable to right now, that does put a lot more pressure, and of course, too, Lamar Jackson not running puts a lot more pressure on Derrick Henry specifically. That's pressure that Derrick Henry, I'm sure, welcomes, and is, of course, he's always prepared to apply whatever level of volume he has the opportunity to take in a game. This is probably or at least, could be one of those games where it is just as simple as, well, yeah, Derrick Henry just flattens the Bengals, and that's how it goes. That's the story. It could be that simple, but I definitely don't know what to make of everything about the Bengals. I guess they're part of it. The offense, the defense you take for some version of bad. I don't know what to make of the offense with the Higgins injury, Burrow saga. It's all very odd. So it's just total wild card, but it's, I think, a little tiny bit easier to see pessimistic scenarios for the Bengals, if only because it's just there's so much stress applied to them with all the injuries, and just it's all a logistical nightmare. So it's kind of unfair to expect the Bengals to be sharp right away, and they don't have a Derrick Henry to lean on. They don't have a Derrick Henry going against a defense as bad as the Bengals, specifically as the Ravens do. So maybe a touchdown's too much, but man, if the Ravens lose this game, they need to fire John Harbaugh right there. Just at the whatever point it's clear that they're not going to win, just make the call right there, even if the game still has like 30 seconds to run out or whatever.
Yeah, I'm about ready to be done with him personally. I do feel strongly that we're not going to get to 52.5, which is our posted total here.
Yeah.
Even with the Bengals defense, being as vulnerable as it is. What is your expectation for Burrow in this spot, coming off the injury, coming off the long layoff? Has had some time to practice, obviously, over these last couple of weeks. No T. Higgins, like you mentioned, but Burrow coming back against this Ravens defense. How does this set up for your Chase Browns, your Jamar Chases of the world?
I really don't know. It's so hard to, again, think of like what a fair expectation would be, because if Burrow goes out there and basically like implodes, like falls over into a big poof of dust, I'd be like, yeah, well, what can you do? But if he plays well, it's not as if it would be truly the most shocking thing. It would just be kind of like it's right now not clear how this is going to turn out for the Bengals, and all we really know in the meantime is that door is closing fast. They're going to have to pull off some heroics to get to where they need, where they want to be here, and in more even weeks beyond this. It's like even if they somehow run over this high wire, it's like they have to do it 3 more weeks in a row or something. Like, it's just seems hopeless, I guess, if I'm really kind of just answering that question reflexively. So Jamar Chase, you're of course start. I'm gonna have to. I don't know. I don't know for sure if I'm gonna start Burrow over Stafford this week on the one team. I guess I probably won't do that, but I do have to start Jamar Chase. It's like we could have Jamar Chase, even if they're starting like Tanner Hudson at quarterback, you still got to start him.
This is true. I think he leads the league in targets by like 10 right now. I think he's at like 117, which is voluminous. Let's see. According to our rankings, we do have Stafford as QB9 for this week, and Burrow more like QB16. So I think Stafford would be your play if choosing between those two. And then just kind of like rounding it out as far as like these 3 games, like, do you have like a kernel of a stack that you think you might pursue for Thursday's DFS slate?
Honestly, I haven't looked at the prices yet, but to me, it doesn't look like a very stackable one. I'm assuming that as far as a 3-game slate goes, I assume by far the chalk will be on Dallas, Kansas City, and maybe Kansas City specifically. But and I get it. I'd probably try to get like a Mahomes, Kelsey, Rashee Rice kind of thing going, and then kind of patch in whatever I can around it. But I think Christian Watson and Dobbs for the Packers are receivers you can go at, even if you're not picking Jordan Love, and if you're trying to round out your group a little bit. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs, St. Brown are always central considerations. You don't even need to think the Lions are going to do that well to believe that they're good picks. I guess it's the Dallas part of the whole. I can't tell how much Dallas can answer the Chiefs, but they might be able to. And if they do, then that's definitely the game you want the most action at.
Yeah, because that game also has a really high total, 52.5 over at DraftKings for that Cowboys Chiefs game. think I will probably be mixing in a fair amount of Derrick Henry as well. Because
Henry.
As busted as the Ravens offense is right now, I feel like he's going to be busy, and the Bengals defense, I think, could be in trouble here. One last little injury note on the Ravens side. Keep an eye on Kyle Hamilton's status. If he's not able to go, I think that makes the secondary a lot less formidable than it's been over these last few weeks. Before we get on over to Friday's action, we got a message from our friends over at Dabble. Dabble isn't just another DFS app. It's the ultimate social platform where you can connect with other fantasy sports lovers. Dabble lets you win big. You can win up to 5,000 times your money this football season. Starting with Dabble is easy, too. New users get $25 free when signing up. No deposit necessary. Check out the link in the episode description below to download Dabble today. We also got a message from our friends over at Blue Wire. Friday. This is a very intriguing game, Mario. Certainly more intriguing than I thought it would be a month ago or even at the beginning of the season. But yeah. Vegas really likes the Eagles here. Vegas has the posted spread at 7 in favor of the home team, Philadelphia Eagles, going up against the Chicago Bears. The Bears are, I don't know how they're doing it exactly, but they are They're 8-3. Yeah, they're 8-3. They are the number 3 seed in the NFC. If the playoffs were to start today, the Eagles, the second seed, also at 8-3. Oh boy. I mean, how does Philadelphia respond from last week? I think is the first question that I would like you to answer here, because I was talking to Jeff and Nick on our XM show yesterday, and it's not exactly the same, but it sets up a similarly uncomfortable feeling, I think, if you're a Philadelphia fan, as like when the 49ers went in there 2 years ago, and that was like, going to be the 2 best teams in the NFC. Niners paced them, and the Eagles just kind of fell apart the rest of the season, limped to the finish line, and ultimately lost to the Buccaneers in the first round of the playoffs. I'm not forecasting that exact same outcome this year, but I think a loss like that with Philadelphia, I think specifically with their coaching deficiencies, it gives me some pause about this team sealing the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think it's at the very least safe to say that it's a memorably weak year overall from the NFL. All the teams that we expected to be the best have turned out to kind of be either frauds or, unlucky, I guess. Not to take away credit from teams like the Rams and the Seahawks or whatever, but a team like the Eagles, and especially the team like the Bears, having the records that they do, even if you sort of equalize for luck from year to year, stuff like 1-score game victories, I haven't even looked, if the Bears have been somewhat fortunate with that type of stat, that's one thing that fluctuates a lot from year to year, but they still just have no business being at this current record. And it's not even like the bad Ben Roethlisberger Steelers team that was 10-0. At least it was like, well, their defense is crazy. Like, well, the Bears defense kind of sucks. So
yeah,
what is even how is this happening? The answer is basically, well, they kind of just keep the game close and they hope the ball bounces their way. And credit to the Bears, though, of course. I mean, I think Ben Johnson's doing kind of the best that they can. I don't mean to make it sound like he's been fraudulent. Even Caleb, I think, has shown some progress lately. Like, it's as much as he is still kind of like struggling to see the NFL field and might continue struggling to read coverages. You can see he's kind of battling through it. Like he's not getting overwhelmed by it. He's not getting discouraged. He's kind of like sticking with it, which is good. But that team has been winning largely just because they've been running the ball so much, including with Monungai, and especially Monungai last week. So making the game smaller, leaning on an undervalued, consistent source of production like the run game in today's NFL, it's an easy way to make your team, at least a little bit insulated from bad luck. And it might just be kind of like the obviously correct thing to do. I mean, look at how good the Bears look when on offense when they try to get both Swift and Monungai going as much as possible. It gives Caleb, the shelter that he kind of needs right now, and in the meantime, defenses haven't really stopped them all that convincingly. What might change here, of course, is that the Eagles are the kind of team that you would suspect can stop a running game like this and probably most others. So if that Swift Monungai element is not there, then Caleb, not to say he can't just kind of have a good game. He can have his ups along with his downs, but it would be pretty difficult to expect it out of him against the Eagles, in my opinion, in the context of having no run game. And on the other side of the game is, as far as the theme of just stress kind of building on Caleb here, the Eagles offense should be able to move the ball pretty easily. I mean, the Bears, if nothing else, are very beat up. I mean, maybe they get Jalen Johnson back this week. I don't know. But their run defense kind of it wasn't good before the injuries hit their linebackers, and now it's those injuries aren't going to help either. So I think Saquon, whoever, Tank Bigsby, whoever is getting carries for the Eagles is probably going to move the ball pretty consistently so that it's one of those games where it doesn't matter if Jalen Hurts sucks. They probably won't need him, but he might not even play. Hurts might play fine. I mean, there's nothing scary about the pass defense for the Bears either.
No, there's really not. It's to me, it's a matter of Philadelphia getting out of its own way, because like the talent on that offense is so good to where it's like, how can we have games like last week where they just totally disappear in the second half? And this goes back to, I want to say, like late September, early October, when they lost to the Broncos. And obviously there's no shame in losing to the Broncos, but they decided they decided to give Saquon Barkley like 7 carries in that game. They lost. I know it's kind of reductive reasoning, but they gave him 10 carries last week and they lost. And I can't understand why Philadelphia.
Sometimes you're not reductive. You're just kind of being objective, and there's only so much to be said. It's like, they give Barkley the ball, they win. They don't give him the ball, they lose. And I know there's the people who like to seize on the whole when commentators on the games are saying like, well, teams are 31-4 when they run the ball 40 times in a game, and they say, well, that's a tautology of them already having won from the pass or whatever. It really is simple in this case, if only because we've seen Jalen Hurts can't carry the offense. We know he's dependent on the run game. So if you can't understand it any other way, understand it like this. If you don't give the ball to Barkley, Hurts will always be worse for it, I guess I should say. So, yeah, part of why the Eagles offense struggles as much as it has this year is because it's inorganic, and they try to force things that are just kind of like agenda points of theirs without it being sort of like the natural flow down the field. Like the easy way for the Eagles to flow down the field is to give the ball to the guy who ran for 2,000 yards last year, especially in a game like this. I know Quinnen Williams changed Dallas a little bit, but like that defense and this defense, you can run on it. So why wouldn't you? It's arrogant to try to throw the ball if you can run the ball easily, and the Eagles can probably run the ball easily here.
Yeah, okay, like you're struggling on the ground. Like you have 10 carries for 22 yards for Saquon Barkley. Like I'm borrowing like a line of yours. Like if you've bottled him up for 10 carries, like you're just that much closer to the next, like, big run from Barkley. Like just keep going at it. Like you can't abandon it if you're the Eagles. Like I just don't think that's like a winning recipe for them.
I gotta go back to the baseball analogies again. It's like in the NFL with football punditry, you get people saying like, well, the run game wasn't there. You can't, he wasn't going yet. He only had 25 yards on 10 carries. It's like saying that running back when it's a Barkley type, when it's Derrick Henry, whatever, when that next big carry is not far away, saying that they shouldn't get more carries based on the past failures is like saying in baseball, like, well, I don't want this guy to get another at bat. We know his average objectively is this, and these are his stats over a certain sample, but the last 5, they haven't been good. So we don't want him to get another at bat. And it's like, no, that's statistical correction. You are preempting your own windfall of production by sticking to ideological nonsense that has no basis in reality at all. Run the football.
Yep. So I'm thinking that I might have said this last week, but Tulo is definitely more Brian Johnson than Kellen Moore. Uncle Ted chimes in saying that got to give Kellen Moore his flowers. Certainly from the Philadelphia year last year, no question about it. And then to your point about like just like the overall strength of of the NFL this year. I mean, the Bears are sitting here at 8-3 with a -3 point differential. That is significantly like a distant third in its own division. But hey, they've gotten it done, and the Packers had that silly tie. So
Ben Johnson's doing a good job, though. I mean,
yeah.
they know they need luck to win, but Johnson is he is keeping them in positions where it's easier to benefit from good luck. You know, making Caleb Williams just carry the team, that's asking for problems. But even if it's DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monunga, guys who don't really, they're not world beaters, even if they're all right or whatever, like just sticking with that and not giving in to the temptations of like trying to try to get too cute, basically. That alone has given the Bears a consistent edge in a league where basically most teams are following huckster nonsense from an era of EPA consultants that will be scorned in the near future for how bad they made the league today.
Bingo. And then let's see here. Uncle Ted rounds off. Is it kind of like an old school fantasy analysis, because we don't see too many guys get 300 carries anymore, but there's obviously like the old phenomenon from like the early 2010s into the mid 2010s where it's like, oh, if your running back had over 300 carries the previous year, big red flag. I guess that is kind of bearing out a little bit with Saquon right now, but I don't think it's all his fault.
Saquon has like 4 years in the NFL with less than 4 yards a carry. He's always been a certain level of volatile because he's always been a certain level of big play dependent. He's also very big play prone, but when they're not there, the number goes to 4 or lower. And then when he gets those 3 40-yard carries over the next 90 carries or whatever, then you're back up to like 4.8. And when you have a year like last year, the anomaly was the other direction. It was just like, yeah, the stars aligned. It happens sometimes, but it's not to say he fell off. And it's also kind of hard to single out the carry count question when the category itself is so small. It's like you're asking me about like a sample size of like 3 or something.
Yeah. To be like him,
it's like Jamal Anderson, Earl Campbell, and Eric Dickerson or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there just aren't that many of those guys, especially not in the modern NFL. So I don't know. It's tricky. I think the Eagles have some other stuff going on, and it dovetails with the idea that the running back needs some good stuff around him in order to be at as
he's been great as a pass
potential.
catcher too. Like Barkley's he's already at last year's production in 11 games that he had in 16 last year. So the slack has redirected a little bit to his pass catching because like the generalized struggles of the Eagles have kind of deteriorated some of those conditions that were otherwise so favorable last year. But if Barkley were like falling off or Barkley were slow, he wouldn't be as good of a receiver as he is right now, because those are the plays where the space is most innately, present. Like it's just he doesn't have to get from behind the offensive line when he's catching a screen on this or is catching something in the flats. So it doesn't matter if the offensive line isn't quite as good as last year.
Yeah, it seems like that just is such like a core of their identity that has taken a bit of a step back. I think Lane Johnson being dinged up certainly like kind of limits that effectiveness of running off the right side, that type of thing. But I think ultimately I'll probably just take the points here, but I could also see this being like the Eagles just taking out their frustration and the Bears maybe getting exposed a little bit. But regardless, I will just take the points with the Bears and see how it goes. Let's get on over to Sunday. We got the Rams and the Panthers. We got the Rams checking in as 10-point favorites coming off a nice and easy blowout win over the Buccaneers on Sunday night, whereas the Panthers, they did not look great on Monday night. We are just about 12 hours removed from the conclusion of that game. I was happy to take some unders on Bryce Young passing yards and passing touchdowns for my various like picks and props last night, and those came in pretty easily. I was never really sweating that out. But regardless, for this matchup, 10.5 points. I mean, does that sound about right to you in terms of your expectations for how this one shakes out?
Yeah. So when I was talking earlier about the Stafford versus Burrow question I'm facing, the only reason at all that I even kind of wondered for a second about that one was because I don't know how much Stafford's going to need to throw the ball against the Panthers. To me, the Panthers are clearly a bad team. And although Dave Canales is kind of doing what I was just describing about Ben Johnson, where it's like what makes the Panthers competitive is their refusal to abandon the run normally. Against the 49ers, they abandoned the run for some reason.
Yeah.
And that's a crazy thing to do when you are intercepting Brock Purdy on 3 consecutive drives. It's like that you never have to throw again if you get that many interceptions in a row. And somehow they ended the game with like Dowdle getting 7 carries or whatever and Hubbard getting 3. Wow, what possibly could explain how they lost that game? I think that they'll get back to the ground game here. I'm sure Canales, it was obvious to him too. He's like, oh, I'm sure he knows he screwed that up. And similarly, he knows that much more, acutely how he can't screw it up the same way against the Rams. But against the Rams, it just won't even matter. I mean, there might have been a way they could have beat the 49ers because of Purdy's turnovers. But Stafford, if it's not Myles Garrett, Matt Stafford's got a good case for MVP. And it seems right now like Sean McVay has this offense at a kind of personnel and strategy assortment that the league just can't adjust to right now. It's like McVay mostly through like the 2 and 3 tight end thing. And I don't think it's a coincidence that a few of the best offenses this year have seized on that strategy in this current paradigm. And it seems like McVay is like another half step ahead of everybody else yet. And he's got defenses now at this point where they need at least an off season to look at this stuff and try to figure out a counter response. And right now they can't, even though they know it's going to Nakua or Adams or Kyron Williams. Something about the way McVay has these 2 and 3 tight end loadouts going right now, and the way defenses are responding to them with their personnel has them in this place where they can't do anything about it. They really can't do anything. And I think that the Panthers are generally okay coached. I think their defense is very well coached, actually. And I think Canales has his moments. The Rams are they probably are the best team. And it's because they're doing so much Moneyball stuff on defense successfully, and on offense, Matthew Stafford is borderline infallible at the moment.
It's crazy. And speaking of giving out the flowers, I guess it would have been pretty late in our preview last week when I just sort of had noticed that about the Rams with their, heavy tight end personnel. And you went on a long rant about, why it's working. And that was excellent. And, it continues to, prove to be accurate as to why this Rams offense is kind of reaching another level this year. And Stafford is really putting on a show right now. I think he's like pretty much like the prohibitive MVP favorite according to the odds, and I think we'll see him stack another win here with another impressive day as well against the Panthers. Let's move on over to the 49ers and the Browns. We just saw the 49ers play as well. Purdy, like you said, tough game, tough first half in particular for him. I guess this is less like a fantasy question, more of like your outlook for the 49ers, but like, are they just way too reliant on Christian McCaffrey, you think?
Yeah, they are.
Feels almost
I'm sure
gimmicky.
I'm sure Shanahan knows it. It's just, they're so beat up. They're just so shorthanded. And McCaffrey, I mean, he is capable. It's of course it's not, it's one of those things that like I'm not getting my hopes up for McCaffrey having like a good NFL season ever again after this, the way they're giving him so much work after the injuries that he's already incurred. Like, not to, bring up something too grim or worse yet, jinx him or whatever, but like with the Achilles thing, especially the way that it looked right before week 1, it's just like if you had told me right before that game when things looked the most ambiguous about because he was missing those practices right before week 1 with the Achilles, if you had told me, okay, now know this, he will get in the next 10 games 400 touches or whatever, I'd be like, what are you talking about? But that's exactly, the 49ers are just basically giving McCaffrey the ball as much as they can figure out how. And it's diminished his returns, like his per touch returns are not as efficient or explosive as when they're running a balanced offense, because the defense, of course, is you have to sell out against McCaffrey. Like you pay a little attention to Kittle, of course, but if McCaffrey's going to get 25 carries and 8 catches, you have to just fly at him wherever he goes. And yeah, it's grinding. He's grinding through it a little bit miraculously, but it's hard. It has to be hard on him.
I would think so. I mean, he's been in the league for like almost a decade at this point, and it's always been these crazy workloads, and it feels like even in light of that this year, they're just like steering
Leaning into
further into it. So I got some concerns, and then we do have a question from Uncle Ted in regards to what's up with Brandon Ayuk. Do you have you been paying attention to this? I do have our most recent player note pulled up, but basically, as of Sunday, the report from Diana Rossini and Michael Silver over at The Athletic, they broke some news Friday about Brandon Ayuk's guaranteed money. Obviously, got that big contract before the 2024 season. Guaranteed money for 2026 being voided after the 49ers asserted that he failed to fulfill contractual obligations. But Shanahan said that I don't know. He said that maybe Ayuk will be able to play this year at some point. It's a very long note, and I
don't think he's going to play for the 49ers ever again. I don't think you take away so-called guaranteed money, so-called signing bonus money, and suddenly it would say, guess what? Not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. It's just not guaranteed now. Will you keep playing for us though? Yeah, I doubt it. Ayuk's going to get traded to another team, or they might just have to cut him. And honestly, John Lynch doesn't get enough criticism. Kyle Shanahan keeps that team at a very consistently high level, because if it's not McVay who's the best offensive coach, it's Shanahan, and they're both uniquely all decade good. So Shanahan's more or less the reason they ever are as good as they are. And Lynch is drafting Jake Moody and Cameron Latu in the 3rd round. He's given Brandon Ayuk this contract after playing hardball the prior year in training camp, and then kind of sort of giving in anyway, but late enough into training camp that Ayuk never got off, never got his feet right, was screwed up, off rhythm all year. Then he got hurt. It's like, this is brutal GM work. And that team has some good picks, of course, and like they have a lot of injury excuses for how bad they've been this year. But man, this is if Brandon Ayuk is such a malcontent or whatever that the 49ers need to go burning bridges like this with him, then they never should have drafted him, let alone had any interest in it. They should have traded him. They should have got rid of him. Just done wrong at every possible step in the process. The 49ers handling of Ayuk, brutal, textbook lesson on how to do everything wrong as a GM.
And they got rid of Debo as well. So what was a real strength of that team that you could circle at the end of the 2023 season is now like completely evaporated. It's strange. I mean, they're obviously getting by. I think a lot of that has to do with them playing the last place schedule. But I mean, they're not awful by any means. But I don't think that this is a walk in the park necessarily.
No,
you were just
it's
talking
a physical
about
pain in the. It's a game that's like, oh God. Even if you win, you're like, that sucked.
Yeah. I mean, that's what playing the Browns is like. I mean, they've got Myles Garrett, Mason Graham, Schlesinger, I think, is like running away with Defensive Rookie of the Year right now as well.
That's wild.
I've buried the lead here. Shadur, what'd you think on Sunday? How does it apply for this game?
Oh, good for him. I mean, he did as much or more as anyone could have fairly expected of him. It's not in my nature, though, to care a whole lot about 20 pass attempts, and the results weren't that good either. I know he didn't have a ton of help, and Jerry Jeudy, I mean, if that's your lead guy, and nothing wrong with Tillman. Actually, I'm back to saying like it's not that hard to play quarterback for the Browns. They don't ask that much of them. And the Raiders suck. Maybe that's another lead burying there. The Raiders are woeded, so it's cool for Shadur Sanders that he was able to kind of answer the moment, but he didn't have to do a whole lot. And what he did, ambiguous at best, honestly, probably tilting a little bit more toward the not good than the good. And I don't know. The 49ers, again, have a ton of injuries on defense. They are not the group they're supposed to be going into this year, but they're well coached. I mean, Robert Saleh has them really well coached. I don't think it'll go that well for Sanders here, or most games, I guess.
Yeah, I think Cleveland can't get over its skis with how not terrible last week went. Sanders, I would say, is like that was the best quarterback game that the Browns have had this year, maybe. But again, like a super low bar. But like, make no mistake, like they need to do what the Panthers refused to do on Monday night. They need to just go with Judkins, go with Dylan Sampson, and try to go that way, shorten the game a little bit, and then have their defense kind of bow up. And we've seen Purdy struggle on the road. We've seen Purdy kind of have, when he's off, it kind of snowballs, and it doesn't just stop with, or it's not just isolated to 1 week. Like he can just get on like an interception heater, basically.
John, sorry, I kind of meant to mention this before, but for whatever reason, Purdy could not throw the ball more than like 10 or 15 yards yesterday. And I don't know if that was just because he was just sort of incidentally screwing up each time he was throwing it that far, or if there's something to do with the toe where it's like he can't drive the ball right now.
That's an interesting call. And then I think you've also made a note that the Niners have an extremely slow receiving core too.
It's like Pearsall back does help quite a bit there, but if defenses notice that Purdy can't strike downfield right now, then the decoy function maybe evaporates right away, and you're back to just kind of playing on like an 8-yard field. And it's like, on the one hand, there's nothing wrong with knowing you have to get rid of the ball quickly when Myles Garrett is chasing you, but you want to get rid of the ball quickly while utilizing the whole field. You don't want to end up in the scenario where it's like, oh, good, we have to throw the ball short now because we can't do anything else.
They're in a weird spot, and I think like the Browns defense is going to kind of like test them further. So I'm inclined to take the points here, frankly. Let's get on over another great defense. We've got the Texans and the Colts, two very good defenses. In fact, we've got the Colts checking in as 4.5-point favorites in this one. That reads to me like Stroud might be out again, but I could be wrong on that.
Might not matter.
I will confirm. Yeah, it might be neutral. Davis Mills, I mean, Mills Mafia 3-0 right now, but looks like Stroud could return this week. I mean, that's one where Sunday's a ways away from when we're recording this one, so we still have a lot of practice reports to sift through before we know for sure. But either way, Indianapolis 4.5-point favorites at home in this spot. As you're saying, like as kind of like watered down as the NFL product has been this year generally, the Texans and the Broncos defenses are like appointment viewing right now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the Colts probably now too. They still don't have great linebacker personnel, and their pass rush is still just kind of like pretty good. DeForest Buckner being out right now also is a huge loss, and whenever he's present, he's the best player on defense. But adding over a span of 2 weeks by trade and by return from injury, Sauce Gardner and Travarius Ward at corner took them from probably one of the worst corner rotations to maybe now the best one. Like those, I know Gardner is everybody's headliner, but Travarius Ward as a boundary corner, I think is similarly good, and he kind of gives you a little bit different of a, like he's a little more heavy but also faster than Gardner, so it's like Ward can maybe do a little bit more like dunk contest kind of defense, whereas like Gardner's, he's more like median range play to play kind of shutdown corner type, but like Ward can make some pretty unique plays, and those two at the boundary basically shuts down the boundary. Even Nico Collins is in some trouble against these guys, in my opinion, and not in a way like, oh, Collins can't beat them. It's just this is a lot, and I think the Colts have reason to also put a safety behind whoever is getting Collins, and it's like Charvarius Ward with a safety. It's like, no way.
Yeah, that sets up, as a really tough matchup for Collins, of course.
Still starting him in fantasy. He's gonna get like 12 targets. I just think, whereas normally I'm getting my hopes up for 150 yards when Collins gets 12 targets. In this case, I'm just crossing my fingers that he gets to 70.
Yeah, like that, just kind of hoping that we can get to double digit points and just kind of like, that ends up being a startable play for this week. But with the, added attention to Collins, is there any like kind of soft spot in this Colts secondary to where, maybe, one of the Iowa State guys or Christian Kirk could match up favorably?
Maybe. I still like the Iowa State guys, and if Christian Kirk were for sure healthy, I think he's a good player too. But Higgins right now, especially, there's no way I can expect him to get anything going against boundary corners as good as Ward and Gardner. The slot is where you'd have to start looking, but Kenny Moore, he'll be pretty good against that underneath stuff. So it's like you have to get downfield where you can hurt more downfield. He's definitely more like a downhill rugged defender than a cover guy. But the Colts are kind of like, Lou Anarumo knows that, and if you very conspicuously put Nico Collins in the slot just to try to get him against and Houston will do that, but you try to move him into the slot against Kenny Moore, Anarumo's like, okay, yeah, safety, no quite, like we're putting more on you if you try to move to the slot against Kenny Moore. So getting a combination of stress points on the Colts defense to where they have to leave Kenny Moore running deep without sufficient help, that seems to me like a difficult thing to arrange.
I think so as well. So I think that is instructive of why the total is sitting at just 44.5. Let's flip it over. How does Indianapolis kind of move the ball on this Texans defense, especially the front seven being as formidable as it is and its corner personnel? I mean, they're pretty much rock solid across the board to very good. I was commenting to you during the Thursday night game that Will Anderson looks like college Will Anderson, like as far as like the difficulty of the opposing offense trying to stop him, just kind of man amongst boys. But now he's doing it in the NFL. It's crazy what his final form could look like. So this Indianapolis team, how are they going to fare in this one against a rested Texans defense?
Well, it's definitely a challenging setup for the Colts, and as much as I might have sounded like I was describing the Texans as completely hopeless, the offense, yeah, I'm very concerned about. But the Houston defense, as you said, they are on the attack rather than the one that's attacked vast majority of the time anyway. If Will Anderson sort of just keeps playing like he did last week, especially, it's like that Buffalo offensive line doesn't really lose to edge rushers. They just don't really, like Spencer Brown and Dawkins. They just haven't really lost that much in years. And Anderson kind of just pulverized them in a way. He just went Hulk on them in a way that was kind of, it did seem like maybe an arrival moment for Anderson, even though he was already very good the entire time. It seems like he might have just kind of gone nuts. And if he and Danielle Hunter are vaguely like, the players that we've come to expect them to be, and if those corners, Lassiter and Stingley, are having one of their better games, that puts Daniel Jones in a really difficult spot in a way that even as a Daniel Jones critic, I wouldn't really criticize him for it. It's like that. Yeah, they get you in the wrong spot and you're just buzzsawed, and sometimes you can't really do that much about it. If the pass rush is in a certain spot, if the corners are in a certain spot, sometimes all you can do is get hit and try to hold on to the ball or something. So with that said, not having Jalen Petrie does hurt the Texans in the slot specifically. So maybe there's a way, I don't know, Josh Downs maybe can get going a little bit here. I don't know if there's something to do with Tyler Warren. At the very least, I think if you're the Colts, you have to plan on guys like Pittman, Pierce, Though they maybe get diminished returns a little bit just because that boundary corner personnel is so tough, and because the pass rush of Houston's makes it difficult for a guy like Pierce to get far downfield. Although if the Colts can withstand that pass rush a couple times and get Pierce against Lassiter is very good overall probably, but he's specifically in his element underneath and in the intermediate, and when he can kind of like pounce on receivers. He runs a 4.65 though. And if Lassiter gets left alone with Pierce and Will Anderson doesn't save the Texans defense, that's Pierce can just run right past Lassiter, no problem.
Hurts my heart to hear that, but at that same time, that is probably where the mismatch is when lining these two units up against one another. I have noticed some griping on Twitter that Tyler Warren has kind of hit a bit of a wall of late. Hasn't had a double-digit fantasy point performance since week 7.
Yeah. Well, his numbers on the year are still quite good, and I know this is a pointless thing to try to preach to the fantasy world. Sometimes you just have to be patient and just shut up a little bit for a while. Like, it's just he had 99 yards right before the bye on 8 catches, so it's really annoying and obnoxious, and it makes people who don't follow fantasy football really hate people who do play fantasy football when they start throwing fits about the tight end, the rookie tight end who's still on pace for over 1,000 yards and something like 6 or 7 touchdowns. They're complaining about that. Like, you can't do that. Don't. You did complain if Tyler Warren were on pace for 450 yards, maybe. Even that wouldn't be like the worst thing of all time, but like Warren's on pace for 1,000 yards, and he could easily get 3 or 4 more rushing touchdowns before the year's over too.
Yeah, you've already gotten so much good from him in the bank, and yes, this upcoming matchup is tough, but I think Indianapolis has like a good little stretch here against opposing tight ends.
This is a
Jacksonville,
good
Seattle.
game.
Yeah.
For Warren to get going, because you don't want to mess with Stingley and Lassiter underneath. You don't want to mess with. So if you can't take Lassiter deep, Warren against anybody is probably your second best option, or Downs, I guess.
And then anytime I see like the complaining about like an obvious like player that you should be starting, it's like, well, who you got that you're going to be starting over him? Like I doubt that you have anybody, unless your roster construction was crazy and like you took Warren in the 7th round after already having drafted McBride or Bowers, that type of thing. But yeah, I think he'll be fine. Let's move on. We've got I can't remember a time in which these two teams have played each other. Saints and Dolphins.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's try to keep it that way in the future, though. Not have them play each other. But I guess, oh man, I don't know what a fair expectation is for the Saints, especially Tyler Shuck. It's like, I don't think he's good. I feel like it's highly likely he's really bad, but he did well that last game, and I think Kellen Moore, even though this has been basically a nightmare season for the Saints, I still think Kellen Moore is blameless pretty much for that, and I think Kellen Moore might be pretty good. And if the Saints kind of just show up at least in this game, they really might be able to move the ball, even if Alvin Kamara is out. I think Devin Neal has shown that he deserves more work. It was unfair, I think, for Neal to have fallen into the 6th round of the draft anyway. I don't know why that ever happened. And now that he's getting these opportunities lately, he checks the box every time. And you never expected Devin Neal to be like a world-beating running back or something, but a guy who can absolutely just, play solid running back. He's always done it. He's doing it so far his rookie year. So if anything, if Devin Neal has to get turned to against the Dolphins defense, I think it's quite possible he's an upgrade at this point over Kamara, who the decline looks pretty convincing at this point, I think, unfortunately. Yeah. So if he's out, I don't think that actually hurts the Saints. It might help them. And meanwhile, yeah, Olave can run circles around these corners. If the run game's going a little bit, if Shuck has some cover, if Kellen Moore has some play action to work with, the Saints really should be able to win the game. But the the flip side of it, of course, is like, well, Achane could just kind of obliterate them, or Waddle could, I think, get going pretty big time against corners like these. So to the extent that like Tua could have a good game, and if as much as you can always outscore them by taking advantage of their bad defense, you don't want to be against the Dolphins on one of the few days where it's like even Tua did good in that one. It's like that's like, oh god, that must be one of like the 3 worst weeks to play them that year.
So yeah, that to me is a concern. I probably still ultimately lean Miami in this one, but 5.5 is kind of a lot to trust with them.
Yeah, I kind of like the Saints to cover at least. I mean, I don't know why they shouldn't be able to move the ball at least. Like field goals, I feel like should at least be there for them, if nothing else.
Are you gonna have some fab interest in Devin Neal from the sound of it?
Luckily, in the NFFC, I was lucky enough to pick him up a few weeks ago. Someone must have had bye week issues, but I got him for $1. So I think whoever it was must have forgot I didn't know he was a free agent either. I was like, what the hell is this? And then, so yeah, I don't know if I'm going to start him this week, but I might need to. Like guys like Judkins and Jalen Warren have been fallible, to say the least.
True, and yeah, I mean, if you get a projected starter's workload against the Dolphins defense, you got to feel.
And I am a Neil truther. Like I really think he's pretty solid.
Yeah, he was awesome at Kansas. I enjoyed his time there. Let's get Falcons Jets. All right. Falcons 2.5-point favorites on the road. The Cousins show continues. I don't know. I don't have a ton to say here.
Well, the Jets are bad almost by kind of like concession and/or design at this point, whereas the Falcons, they are bad, but for various political reasons, they're pretty committed to the idea that they're not, like specifically, if we're trying to find a single culprit for like why the league is so bad, now that Tom Telesco's not a GM anymore, I think you have to single out the Falcons as like an A1 example of why the NFL is so much worse than it should be, needlessly making the game worse. The coaches are bad. I mean, I like Raheem Morris enough, but like he's not a good head coach. He's probably a pretty good defensive coordinator, but Zach Robinson, abysmal.
Terrible.
And this is the Falcons front office is like the mecca of the EPA nonsense, the charlatans who are pushing EPA garbage on everybody else. And you see it in the way they handled the Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix thing. And you saw their apologists in football media line up immediately when that happens. They actually, it's really smart to give Kirk Cousins that much money and then draft Michael Penix, even though no one thought Michael Penix was going to go that high. And if you don't understand why that's smart, you don't know addition and subtraction. You don't know anything. You're loco. And it's like this is such a botching that they have pulled off. They've obliterated so much of their cap and so much of their draft resources, and they're spending all these things that are supposed to, put them in the window. We got the window now. You have no window at all. You are nowhere close. Your team is garbage. You're rebuilding, even though you're like expensive in the meantime. So the Falcons are terrible in a way that I really can't just assume they'll beat the Jets. However, Bijan, of course, is sort of like the stabilizing, and when Drake London's active, he's obviously a stabilizing force too. But when Bijan Robinson's going against a defense that is any less than good, it's kind of hard to screw it up, even if you're the Falcons, So that's the way they can win. Is just Bijan just has a solid or properly big game here. And if you don't turn the ball over, the Jets clearly can't really force the issue by scoring on their side. And the Falcons' pass rush is still, even if only by accident, it is still good. So Tyrod could kind of have one of his bad games too.
Yeah, I thought he looked okay last week, but I feel like the shoe will the other shoe will drop eventually. And yeah, like there is one nice thing you can say, I guess, about the Falcons and how they've drafted of late on the defensive side of the ball. Getting Jalen Walker and James Pierce was was looking pretty good. Although, that pick that they forfeited to the Rams is going to be pretty high for which, again, flies in the face of when they took Michael Penix. They're like, we're not going to be drafting in the top 10, maybe ever again. So
drop the banner. It's over. We're good again forever. Oh man. Yeah, that whole thing, I feel like it takes so much arrogance to believe some of the things that these like new school quarterback dogma cult people, consultants are pushing to leverage yourself so far into the future over such immaterial garbage in the meantime. Masterclass in getting conned, self-conning.
A lot of people down here think that Terry Fontenot is like still like a sleeper cell for the Saints, who is destroying the
if
Falcons.
The Saints weren't so
within.
bad, if Mickey Loomis wasn't so bad himself as a GM that you had to worry about him being a sleeper agent of some third party, that would make sense.
I love it. You're like, I see your conspiracy, and here's another one. Yeah, so that's Jets Falcons for you guys. Let's get Cardinals Bucks. Well, Baker Mayfield, obviously the kind of big story here with his left shoulder AC joint injury. So we'll have to see how his status progresses. I do think we might have a couple of IR running backs that are coming back. I think it at least looks okay for Bucky Irving last I saw.
Yeah, I still think Sean Tucker's has done such a good job that they got to keep him involved. And if they can't quit Rachaad White, then I think then all three running backs will play. But if one between Tucker and White must get deleted to make room for Irving, I feel like it's got to be White. But I don't know, maybe he's still a good passing down guy. Maybe they care more about that than the pure running. So maybe even though Sean Tucker is a better runner than White, maybe Tucker goes from kind of 1A to 3 right away. I hope not. I don't think that would be smart for the Buccaneers, especially when at a time they could use more running support than ever, probably. So
yep.
I don't know what a fair expectation is for Irving. Hopefully he's ready to kind of just let it rip. But I think they should still try to keep Irving around maybe 25 or 30 snaps in the meantime, at least, just to I don't know, work him back in a little bit and until Tucker stops being good enough. But it'd be a shame if they just kind of like deleted Tucker, even though they got to get Irving back in, obviously.
Yeah, I think that'd be foolish. I think especially this week, because if Baker is playing, I don't think that that did not look great to me on Sunday night. And
no.
we know that he's had non-throwing shoulder or arm issues from his time in Cleveland. So we can at once feel like maybe he's going to tough it out, but at the cost of his performance, I'm concerned as far as the Buccaneers go. Like I would, if I could, if I'm the Bucs, like I see if I can win this game with Bridgewater, and give Baker some extra time there to get that shoulder right. But I think regardless, I think the Bucs do need to lean heavily on the running backs here, and I think getting Bucky Irving back into the mix and keeping Sean Tucker going would be a really kind of sharp way of going about it. For them. On the Cardinals side, no word yet on Trey Benson. Maybe I'm bringing him up selfishly because I have a ton of Trey Benson. So I've kind of been itching for him to get back, but I don't know, man. I've been enjoying the Jacoby Brissett show. Obviously the quarterback, but he's made they're just letting him huck it. They're just letting him huck it like 40, 50 times a game, and I'm loving it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very weird because even in college, Jacoby Brissett was kind of a low pass attempt volume guy. There's never at any point been an offense where it's Jacoby Brissett air raid, but that's kind of what the Cardinals have been doing. The results have been far from bad. I'm not convinced it's great exactly. I definitely kind of it's a little bit, I think, reduced expectations just because of like how bad the offense was when he took over. Like it's you're gonna look good easily compared to how bad they were before then if you play vaguely well at all. Also, I think there's like a little bit of a Linsanity aspect to it, which is fun, and it's hopefully Brissett can kind of just keep rolling. It's definitely very good for fantasy, at least for like Michael Wilson and Trey McBride, that they're throwing 40 plus times per game most weeks right now. It's like it's sort of hard to explain why they couldn't just do it before. And I don't think it's just as simple as Kyler Murray sucks or whatever, but at the very least, I think it is safe to say Brissett fits whatever the ostensible theory is of this Cardinals offense, the Drew Petzing offense. I guess it always wanted a quarterback less like Murray and more like Brissett. And then, if nothing else, that is clear by now.
And I think as far as like the offensive philosophy here with high passing volume, in addition to that, it doesn't really look like Marvin Harrison is on track to be ready to go. He had no timeline to return as of Monday. So we'll again see how the practice reports shape up this week. But I think we could see just like a zillion targets go in Michael Wilson and Trey McBride's direction. And again, keep an eye out for Benson's status as things progress throughout the week. Anything else to add here?
Not really. I guess I'd take. I expect a low scoring game either way. But if the plan you described for the Buccaneers, where it's like they just run kind of as much as they can, if they do that, I think they'll get the win eventually. But yeah, if they try to throw the ball too much, or if they make Baker, if they let Baker put himself at unnecessary risk, that's how it could go sideways. I think
so too. Jags Titans is next up for us. The Jags second game in a row on the road here, 6.5 point favorites against a Titans team that I think most people thought that I feel like people came away impressed. It's all relative when it comes to the Titans, but for being 2 touchdown underdogs at home against the Seahawks, I felt like they comported themselves okay, I guess. Am I misreading that?
Absolutely. No, I mean part of what made it so uniquely discouraging and disheartening earlier this year when the Titans were losing quite the way that they were is the utter lifelessness of it. It was just kind of like, it just doesn't look like they're a real football team. And it was unfortunate that would fall so hard, especially on Cam Ward. It's objectively not looking good for him, but it's so easy to look over the schedule, and keeping in mind the players that he's had to deal with on the Titans. And it's easy to look at pretty much every game, no matter how bad they are, and say like, yeah, there's some level of excuse here, not just like not being a homer making excuses for him kind of thing. More like you have to objectively admit that this is extremely difficult for whatever quarterback was playing in these circumstances. Yeah. And that he's a rookie, it's just a lot. You should give yourself more credit, John, for being the Shamir DK whisperer. I'm pretty sure you gave a more Shamir DK hype than anyone in the industry. And what do you know? He's kind of the whole team right now. He looks like really good. There's maybe a little bit of a Linsanity thing going on with DK, but at the very least, he's proven he's like a monster returner. And yes, I don't know. It's like the peripheral stats really aren't bad, even though the efficiency is, because 43 targets on 358 snaps, even at the low depth of target, it's like that's steady involvement. Even if it's low depth of target, even if it's mostly from the slot, like that's steady involvement. And it's such a good thing to see specifically with DK, because he was kind of the opposite player in college. They used him more like Darius Slayton or something in college, boundary, downfield, decoy stuff. And then with the Titans, he's been in the slot and giving them a lot of specifically like running after the catch, running in the open field, that kind of stuff. So DK might kind of be another Rashid Shaheed type, and that might not be that exciting to some people, but I think Rashid Shaheed's really good, so that I think that'd be really good for the Titans. And in the meantime, it's like I can't really tell someone they're crazy for playing DK in fantasy. He's got, in the past 5 games, he's got 16, 1.5, 3.4, and then 15.4 fantasy points in PPR. And I don't even know if that's counting the punt return touchdown. I don't think it's not counting punt return touchdown. So if you get those two, I mean, he's been legitimately good the past month or so.
He was always like an eye test guy for me, and I think that it stems from like I watched a lot of Wisconsin football when I lived there, and he just looked different than like any other receiver that they
He,
had. And then he
he's not
finishes out.
Wisconsin fast exactly. We like our receivers more like the 4.59 types, not this fancy 4.32 or whatever DK ran.
Exactly. So it made more sense visibly when he was at Florida. It's like, oh yeah, he is legitimately really fast, and he stamped the great combine. And at that point, I'm like, I know that this guy like has some polish to him. I know that he can, he can play the position here. He's not like just a speed only type of guy, but when he has that level of speed in his back pocket, I feel like you have a starter kit of someone that can actually develop and become, a fantasy asset. So it's been cool to see him, take off, especially like we've been outlining it in pretty rocky soil there in Tennessee. On the Jacksonville side, Parker Washington coming off the huge game. Beyond that, though, what did you make of their game out in Arizona? That was a very fun game, but I mean, if you're a Jags fan, where are your critiques and where do you feel good?
Well, I think if you're a Jags fan, you like the way the Jaguars are battling, even though they're kind of struggling so constantly. It's like even when they win, it's a hard fought, skin of your teeth kind of thing. But it to me looks like a change in their demeanor, like a change in their constitution as a team, that they're able to play that way at all. Like the Doug Peterson and obviously the Urban Meyer teams, when the pressure was on, they would kind of just fold every time. And in the meantime, the Jags have this obviously still huge issue of generalized struggle, but it looks like there's reason for hope, in my opinion. And not just Parker Washington. I mean, Jacoby Myers, if he can build on this, what he's shown so far, he could kind of change the complexion of the Jaguars offense. Like obviously it doesn't stop Lawrence from throwing 3 interceptions, but Jacoby Myers getting snaps instead of whatever, De'Ami Brown or even Brian Thomas, that objectively raises Lawrence's completion percentage, like it's
Right.
that simple of a rule. Like Myers doesn't drop those passes. So I think Myers has been very impressive actually for how short of a time he's had there. It's been 3 weeks, and he's gone against 3 tough defenses. He's gone against the Texans, he's got the Chargers, the Cardinals. This is a situation where I think it could keep getting better because he's kind of been an easy fit, and now I think Cohen can kind of look into the ways they can actually build with it. And I don't know. I think obviously you're the Jags. The Titans are very weak. The Jags should just take care of business here if they are even an average NFL team this year. But I think they might. Not that I want the Titans to get buried or anything, but I think the Jags might finish a little stronger than people expect, given like all the circus stuff that's gone on this year.
I like that call. This is a good spot for them to kind of continue to build. And maybe if last week didn't look exactly like the Chargers game, going up against the Titans here, I feel like it is a good spot for the Jags to continue to stack some wins. Let's get Vikings Seahawks next. The Sam Darnold revenge game. Seahawks 10.5-point favorites at home against the Vikes.
Oof. Yeah. I don't know if the Vikings leave JJ McCarthy as the starting quarterback for this game. I think it means almost like they hate him now. Like they're putting him out there to say, you know what, you deserve this. It's been a nightmare because of you, and we want you. You're getting the Seahawks in Seattle now.
Yeah.
Whereas if they put Max Brosmer in for this game, it would sort of show that the level of concern for McCarthy and how obviously badly he's going to play in this game if they do let him out there. It's so brutal, and I know these things are kind of difficult to get across by numbers or even just talking through it, trying to explain it. But the particular way JJ McCarthy has not played well is something that's eerie and not easily recalled. Like normally you see a quarterback just kind of look like, I don't know, he's just not accurate enough. He's got a pop gun arm. He's his arm is too weak for how short he is, or whatever. Things like that. It's like you watch JJ McCarthy, and it's sort of it seems all mental with him, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. It might be the kind of it's a mental struggle for him because he's just not any good at it, and he's not a natural, and he never will be. He might be able to get better with time. I don't know. He is still young. It wouldn't be the weirdest thing if a guy like him just kind of turned a corner down the road. But in the meantime, every single week, it looks like he has not practiced with the team. It looks like he got like helicoptered into the stadium, like Bobby Boucher halftime showing up and like playing instead of linebacker, playing quarterback, and instead of being the greatest of all time, being kind of like the worst quarterback I can remember seeing in many years. So I don't know. I think they have to bench him, and if they don't bench him before this game, they're going to bench him in the game, which would almost be like serving him up as like an apologetic sacrifice to the Darnold gods or something.
The mental thing with McCarthy is interesting because that was really because there wasn't a lot of statistical sample to believe that he was a first round quarterback. There had to be a lot of, oh, he's mentally like he's the sharpest guy in this draft class. It's interesting that that's like kind of been the big sort of weakness.
He can't run the plays. He can't run the offense. It looks like he just has not practiced with the team, training camp, the week installs, anything. It looks like he's just playing for the first time and sort of just having instructions relayed to him from the headset, and he's just like doing his best to do the instructions, but he just doesn't know what he's doing. He can't set the protections right, I don't think. Like I saw some apologist on Twitter saying like, well, he's been pressured on like a third of the snaps. Like, yeah, when have you ever seen that happen otherwise? And especially with the kind of offensive line like they have, it has to be McCarthy that's causing it.
I think that's a really good call, and you've been kind of like circling that as an issue of his for a couple weeks now, and so now I feel like the McCarthy discourse is coming to a head. You've of
the
course
memes are
seen
funny.
Yeah,
I gotta give him that. These are good memes, so I guess for that reason I don't want him benched. But it is almost Brosmer time, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, when you're getting the side by side blind resume with Jamarcus Russell for how your rookie year is going. That's bad, in my opinion. Let's see here. Anything to add outside of the normal stuff for the Seahawks here?
They seem like a pretty simple operation
Yeah.
at this point. It's like Smith and Jigba gets 150 of the 190 yards they throw for, 3 or 4 touchdowns for Darnold. Kenneth Walker will get exactly 12.7 PPR points. Charbonnet will steal a touchdown and average more than a yard less per carry than Walker, and the Walker slappies will howl,
they will rage,
they will lament, and it won't change, and it's funny.
Yeah, that's pretty much the state of the state out there in Seattle. Like you said, a pretty predictable operation now. Not to say that it's a bad one. It's obviously very, very good. But
Kubiak's just coach of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's beasting. Let's grab a couple more ads here before we finish out the afternoon. Got a message from our pals over at Trophy Smack. You dominated your fantasy football league all season long. Now it's time to show it off. Trophy Smack turns your league domination into hardware built to flex. From championship belts, trophies, rings, and chains, they've got everything a true champion needs to make victories unforgettable. Mario, on the pod last week, I mentioned I'm in this college fantasy football contest with a big championship belt from Trophy Smack on the line. I am in the finals. One more week. I want that belt. And don't forget about shaming that league loser. They've got items like high visibility loser vests, embarrassing singlets. So just like picturing like the Borat one. Oh my. Humiliating license plate frames and more. Trophy Smack fuels the glory and the punishment. Every league needs to keep the season unforgettable. Trash talk fades, but glory lasts forever. You earn this moment, so claim it. Visit trophysmack.com to lock in your hardware and take 10% off with code ROTOSMACK10. That's trophy.smack.com, code ROTOSMACK10. You can thank us later. We also got a message from our friends over at Chalkboard. Cash in on your NFL picks this season with Chalkboard. Simply choose more or less on your favorite player stats to win up to 5,000 times your money. For a limited time only, new players receive a free pick and a 100% deposit match. See why over 1 million fans have already locked in with Chalkboard to turn their sports knowledge into cold, hard cash. Whether you're locking in the perfect slip with alternate lines, using the cash out feature to take your money and run, or hammering the daily promos, today is your chance to win up to $40,000 on a single entry. Stop sitting on the sidelines and get into the game with Chalkboard Fantasy Sports, now available in 30 plus states. Download Chalkboard today and use promo code ROTONFL, that's ROTONFL, to claim your free pick and a 100% deposit match now. Okay. Raiders Chargers. We got some bleak in this afternoon window, man.
Yeah, the Chargers, I think, are still walking wounded. The offensive line is just going to be garbage all year. Nothing to do about it. Getting O'Marion Hampton back, I guess, would be helpful. I don't know if I'm worried he's not going to be himself. I'm worried it might be like a Pacheco kind of thing from last year, something nauseating like that. I'd love to be wrong. I have plenty of O'Marion Hampton best ball. I'd like to be very wrong about this. And he is clearly better than Vidal, even though I also like Vidal. But, man, let's just say the Chargers are lucky they're playing the Raiders this week.
Yeah, they could use it. I mean, obviously, the week before the bye was tough. The bye came at a good time for them. You know, I'm referencing that Jags game a couple weeks ago. So now you get the Raiders. Raiders are falling apart.
Worst team ever already. It's a title that is handed over to a new team every few weeks or so, but there is always the worst team of all time in whatever current NFL season you're observing. And right now, the Raiders are the worst team ever.
Yeah, I mean, they got punked by the Browns. I think that tells us what we need to know.
Pete Carroll, fail son Nepo fail son employment conspiracy type scenes, I think.
Type scenes indeed, Mario. Yeah, their offensive line is abysmal. I wonder who's coaching that. So, it's other than Bowers and Jen, like we need to start a petition to save those guys from this team, because it's just like a burning dumpster fire. And someone had an interesting angle on it where the Raiders ownership just doesn't even need to care anymore, because they're always going to have a packed stadium because it's Vegas. So the opposing teams will just come in droves, and so the Raiders just don't even really need to be concerned with having a competitive product on the field. And hard to disagree with that, with how they are operating.
That's the whole NFL and pretty much every sports league in question in the US, right? It's these baseball owners basically hold the teams hostage from the people in these municipalities where they paid for the stadium that the billionaire gets to keep for themselves, and then they don't spend any money on the team. It's sorry to these people, their teams are not teams that they care about as fans. They are high yield savings accounts, basically, and you as the taxpayer get to eat whatever unforeseen overhead they might see, and you can't come in.
It's it's a real fun dynamic. I'm thinking of the Pittsburgh Pirates or something right now, but that's funny because the Raiders are also a type of pirate.
Yeah.
Bills, Steelers. Bills 3.5-point favorites this one in Pittsburgh. You have the latest on Aaron Rodgers? Does it matter?
Who cares? He's going to make himself the subject of the news one way or another. I feel
correct.
Even if it was the doctors straight up told him, you're not going to play, you idiot, he would just do the thing about, well, I just want to. Can you tell whatever can you tell Diana Rossini that I'm really pushing to play?
I'm drinking a lot of raw milk to strengthen my bones.
I'm marinating myself in liquid colloidal silver to get myself ready, because I'm doing everything that I can. I don't doubt Rodgers would say that stuff, even if it was just you're out, stupid, you broke your wrist. You can't play with a broken wrist, stupid. You're a quarterback. he needs to be in the news anyway. So Mason Rudolph will just kind of, I think, whatever. Maybe there is a point in the next couple of weeks that Rodgers can return despite the wrist being technically still broken. But name one time any quarterback played with a broken wrist. You can't do it. You can't do handoffs. You can't catch the snap reliably. You're playing with like
can't go under center.
Like rollerblading gear on your hand. Like that doesn't make any sense in football. So I think it's gonna be Mason Rudolph. Doesn't really matter in my opinion. I think the Steelers are just not correctly built. Like they're not for the kind of theory that they're using, competitive theory for a football team that they're using. They have the incorrect personnel. Like specifically, they can't run the ball as well as they need to. And I know Gainwell has had some good games, and Warren's usually pretty good. But they're both like third down backs playing power running back football for a team that needs a power running game and doesn't have it. Josh Allen and the Bills have their struggles to contend with, I know, but I would be kind of floored if they somehow screwed this up.
Yeah, I don't think they will. Although we're running out of forgivable screw ups for this Bills team.
It's true.
At this point. True. I will say though, if I'm drawing a parallel from their loss to Houston to this one, like, do you have those same, or maybe not the same concerns when it comes to going up against the Steelers front, but is that something that does worry you for on the Bills side of thing with, given, just how much Josh Allen was on his back last week?
Yeah, I guess I gotta look up Deion Dawkins's practice situation. If Deion Dawkins is playing hurt, if Spencer Brown's playing hurt or something to make it makes sense how the Bills pass blocking has fallen apart a couple times this year. The Houston game and the Atlanta game. And the Atlanta game was especially surprising because they have a swarm, but they don't have they don't have a Danielle Hunter, let alone a Will Anderson. So I guess I do need to find the Steelers pass rush potentially concerning if the Falcons were already an issue, because despite the issues, the Steelers defense more broadly, the pass rush is quite fine. If you let those guys get teed up, you're in a lot of trouble. But the Bills probably, in my opinion, won't let them get teed up that way. For better or worse, Joe Brady has been pretty committed to the run this year, and even if they kind of overwork James Cook a little, it's what they've done all year. And I think James Cook should be able to run the ball against the Steelers. And as long as you're getting Josh Allen, a 2nd and 2 every now and then to work with, you can kind of stay a step ahead of that pass rush. And I guess that's how I expect it to go.
I will say on that note, I just looked it up. Spencer Brown hurt his shoulder against the Texans, apparently a candidate to go on IR.
So okay, that is bad. That changes a lot right there, because like Dawkins and Brown are a reason to think that they can like stall a pass rush, but whoever's up next, deals off.
Yeah, it's like Ryan Vandemark. Yeah, I don't know.
I had so much hope for my guy. I had so much hope for my guy Tommy Doyle from Miami of Ohio a few years ago, but apparently he didn't make it. So, I don't know who any of their backup offensive linemen are now.
That's okay. I can't blame you too much for that. So, I think if nothing else, like the Bills probably had some pretty stark takeaways from that Texans game, and we'll try to do things to like you're saying, like mitigate that pass rush, especially if they're shorthanded up front. Just probably run the ball a little bit more against the Steelers here. If I can find a 4.5, I might lay it with the Steelers plus 4.5, but I still think the Bills will win this one. Sunday night we are getting this is like your time to like apologize to your significant other for watching football for like the past 72 hours, because there's not much you really need to do with Broncos Commanders, but it's going to be on. But you can say like, I'm not watching football, babe. We can watch a movie. We can watch a rom-com. We can watch a Christmas movie because it's after Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I'm speaking my own strategy into existence, really.
No, you give some good ideas. Yeah, I think it's also a good time to check out your holiday themed cartoons. Maybe they're sitcoms or whatever. Watch them all in a row, perhaps. But I think the Commanders Broncos game is definitely something to not watch. Sorry to the primetime sponsors, our beloved advertisers of Sunday Night Football, but I just don't plan on really watching more than I have to. Basically until the game. I expect the Broncos to kind of clean up here. It's a crazy pass rush they have, and even if the Commanders were totally healthy, it's like the Broncos defense, the pass rush specifically, has just kind of overruled everything they've seen so far. Even in games where the Broncos lose, it's like the pass rush went nuts anyway. Like it wasn't them that failed. I don't think Bo Nix can fail against this Washington defense. It just has kind of too many weaknesses, and I just hope Sean Payton stops this Jaleel McLaughlin stuff. As much as I was a big fan of the selection of RJ Harvey in the second round, it is exactly correct. The critics of that pick would be exactly correct if Sean Payton keeps using RJ Harvey this way. Like, why are you taking a 24-year-old running back in the second round if you're going to have Jaleel McLaughlin take half of the snaps in the event that J.K. Dobbins gets hurt? Like, if J.K. Dobbins gets hurt, Harvey should get every touch there is at running back in the game. Literally. Tyler Bidet, not an NFL running back. Jaleel McLaughlin, not an NFL running back. Literally just a worse version of everything Harvey does. He is smaller, slower, does everything worse than Harvey, and Peyton uses them anyway. I wish the Broncos would lose, but I don't think they will.
Not here. Yeah, I think Washington has already kind of signaled that they don't want the smoke. Also, Jaden Daniels is returning to practice, but they're not expecting him to play this week. It would be almost malpractice to put him out there in his first game.
It would specifically be malpractice. It would be the definition.
So I think we will have another Marcus Mariota game against this Broncos defense. So that's going to be tricky. We do have a trade question, Mario, and then we got the Monday night game to get to here. All right. So we're trying to jockey for some playoff position here. Would you trade away Emeka Egbuka for Drake London? I'm worried about Drake London's knee. Like, he's got a PCL issue. But I'm worried about Egbuka with the quarterback play. So that's a hard one to parse right now.
Yeah, not like I'm complaining to Gerson. Sorry, I can't even say their name. But I kind of hate the question because it's such a bummer having to think about Drake London being hurt. And we mentioned it in the past podcast, but specifically, I think I have like the nightmare come to my mind again of when Keenan Allen had a PCL sprain his last year at California, 12 years ago or whatever that was. That sucked because Allen was he was like basically limping for 6 months or something. He played hurt all year and then couldn't do much pre-draft testing because his knee was still screwed up even in April or whatever, or March. So I really hope the Falcons just don't make this worse with London than it needs to be. If they rush him back and that turns into like another couple months of dealing with the PCL, I'll be just disgusted. So I kind of go Egbuka because I do take the PCL seriously. And I apologize if this happens, but I would love nothing more than if it just turned out they're like, no, Drake London's fine, he's in this week. Then you would rather have London. If London is playing, he's better than Egbuka.
He is, but it's just hard to bank on health right now for him. And I think there's enough in Gerson's receiver room right now. I mean, he's got CD and JSN. Like you've already kind of like got it figured out. So like
I guess you can take on the slowly maturing assets because it's like if London returns in 3 weeks, you can certainly withstand that amount of time with CD, JSN, and Wilson.
Yeah, I think Michael Wilson is like a nice patch to kind of help get you into the playoffs right now, because again, Marvin Harrison not going to be playing this week, we don't think, and again, the Cardinals are just air raiding this. I'm sure like Cliff Kingsbury is jealous of what they're doing out there in Arizona, but we do have a question from one of our listeners. Just your kind of general thoughts on Michael Wilson. Obviously, the volume has skyrocketed these last couple of weeks here, but what's sort of like your quick, who is he as a player, and like not necessarily is this sustainable, but like is he showing to be something that we need to keep on the radar maybe for next year?
Yeah, I think Wilson was good this whole time. I think attributed to Kyler Murray or whatever else, or the presence of Harrison, I don't know, but the field was cluttered so much, and Harrison and also McBride, the prioritized reads on that constricted field so much that there just wasn't space for Wilson the vast majority of the time. And he was capable the whole time, but it's just, the ball wasn't going to go to him no matter what he did. The conditions changed, of course, both with Murray and Harrison, Brissett being in, Harrison being out. It's cleared all this space for Wilson that he could have been productive with this whole time. He was always a productive player at Stanford. He just got hurt a lot. So that's why if you look at Wilson's Stanford numbers, it doesn't look impressive. It's basically because it's like he'd have like 4 really good games a year and miss 6 or something. He's not quite as good as his numbers the last 2 weeks, but he is good. And in fantasy, if you have him, there are not many scenarios where I would be benching him right now. Even if it's not long-term sustainable, another week, I think it really is. He could go 10 plus catches again. And even if he regresses a little, it's like a 7 or 8 catch receiver is still useful too. So like, I think the Cardinals need to figure out a way to create that space for Wilson, even when Harrison comes back, because clearly it's a waste to make him like a background character like they did before.
Obviously. And so dynasty value, like I think, being attached to Arizona, like these last couple of weeks, like it's not going to last forever, but
don't sell high. Exactly. I mean, if someone's offering you the world for him, yeah, sure. But don't go thinking like this is a Travis Fulgham situation, because it isn't.
I was thinking about Travis Fulgham the other day for some reason. Shout out.
We're just like that. We're just remembering guys at the stoplight.
I thought about Godster Cherilus the other day too. I don't think I was even
story. He went completely insane and like tried to like kill people on a plane or something. So literally, like he was on a plane to Ireland and got like instituted or something.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. I just remembered thinking he had a cool name, but
it is a cool name. Unfortunate story. Hopefully it's not,
unfortunate story indeed. And before we get to the Monday night game, there is a commenter saying that if I shave my mustache, we will get more views.
Buddy, take a hike.
I care a lot about our viewership.
This is a mustache-themed podcast.
I am not parting ways with this bad boy. You don't want to know what the face looks like without it. I mean, it's covering up as much real estate as it needs to. So keeping the mustache, dang it. Patriots Giants. Patriots 7.5 point favorites. I fear that our 1 week dalliance with Jameis Winston may be over. But the good news is if he is not starting, that means that Jackson Dart would be starting. Like I would be screeching if it was like we're benching Jameis for Russell Wilson again. So I can take no more Jameis if that does mean more Jackson Dart. He's one of my faves to watch. But irrespective of that, what are your thoughts on this matchup with the Patriots, coming in here just rocket hot right now?
Yeah, this is not good science or whatever, but I can't shake from my mind how night games at Foxborough always kind of seem to go miserably for the visiting team. And the Giants have plenty of good excuses already to basically get whooped here. Like it's not anybody failing to do their job if the Giants get whooped here. It's just they're a rebuilding team with a ton of injuries, and the Patriots are probably a top 4 team in the NFL. And a lot of the weak spots for the Giants are strength spots for the Patriots. On and on it goes. So I feel like even though Dart wants to play, it would actually make a lot of sense for the Giants to just kind of redshirt him the rest of the year. I mean, we don't need him to get to a half dozen concussion tests in a meaningless season. It's there's nothing at stake. Doesn't make sense. But if he plays, of course, in fantasy, I mean, the amount of running alone that Dart has done, it's understandable if someone would start him in fantasy, even if they sort of take for a given that it might be a difficult game in real life, and especially for the Giants overall.
I think so too. I think that's the right, kind of read on it. Let's say it is Jameis out there. I know you mentioned that, like the Patriot, where the Patriots are strong, it is not a good matchup for the Giants. But where are you kind of with Wan'Dale Robinson this year? Because he
good player.
I know he has really come on like really strong this year. I think he has as many targets or like maybe 2 fewer than JSN right now.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wan'Dale Robinson's box scores over the last few years are so strange, and he's such an unconventional case because normally you look at his numbers from last year, like 5 yards a target. Like, how did this happen? 5 yards a target over 140 targets? This must be a mistake. This is the worst passing game of all time, perhaps, surely. But it was like a unlikely, sure, but definitely real series of just weird kind of arbitrary outcomes, anomalous outcomes that sort of landed hard on Wan'Dale Robinson's numbers. And only now, finally this year, even on an offense that still kind of sucks and has plenty of problems, he still has gotten such better opportunity level this year that you're seeing only now the true form of Wan'Dale Robinson. Is like he wasn't a 5 yards a target guy, but he was a maybe 140 target guy. Just those 140 targets happened in like a really unhealthy offense. And now, at the very least, like Wan'Dale Robinson has shown that he can be, in my opinion, one of the best slot receivers in the league. He's made plenty of good plays as like a flanker this year too, which helps. It's cool that he's added that part of his game. But you always had reason to believe long term that Robinson would break out because he was such a uniquely productive player in college, both at Nebraska and Kentucky. So it's good to see him finally, break through, because it turned out he really was just unlucky the past 3 years.
Yeah, I think you can look at the quarterbacks that he's played alongside, and it makes some sense. And I think if you're the Giants, you look ahead to next year, and you got Neighbors, you got Wandale, like not bad, not bad.
Not at all, no.
I think let's see on the Patriots side, I mean, you got to feel pretty good about any of your Patriots assets going up against a Giants defense that's really bad.
Yeah, I'm always going to have the ongoing concern with the Patriots that they might not need to show their whole hand, especially in a game. Any overmatched opponent, the Patriots might spread the ball around a little bit and not use many of their money plays, especially for a guy like Stephon Diggs. I think they probably wanted Diggs to get going a little bit more, just to kind of a little more insurance against the Bengals. So maybe he just straight up kind of struggled in that game, and maybe they'll try to get him going in this one to a full extent. If so, I definitely think Diggs can have a big game, but I feel like he's ideally in your kind of like wide receiver 4 flex spot or wide receiver 3 spot, just because, in my opinion, there will be games, and potentially including this game, where the Patriots can cover easily, win by double-digit points, and it can be Austin Hooper and Mac Hollins who catch the 2 touchdowns that Drake May throws.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is the kind of ongoing concern, especially in like half point PPR formats. If you are a manager with Stephon Diggs, but
they're going to move
yeah.
the ball and they're going to score. It's just kind of like there's so many guys who can do it for them. It's hard to get your hopes up that it's like a true breakout for anyone in particular.
Yeah, so it's like the Jets game, for example. Like Trevion Henderson obviously had the massive game, but Diggs didn't score a touchdown, but still had 100 yards. Like maybe something like that could be in the works here potentially against the Giants. But I think that's going to do it for us here on the Week 13 preview edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. If you're just listening to us and you haven't checked out our website yet, go on over rotowire.com. Use that code YouTube15. That'll get you 15% off any subscription. We obviously have tons of football stuff to help you throughout the playoff push. Basketball is obviously heated up right now as well. So if you're a fantasy NBA guy or player, that's definitely worth a look. And then we have tons of new tools over on RotoWire in the fantasy football area, including our start sit tool. Who should I start is what it's called, and very nifty. We've demoed that on the show before, so that might be worth that subscription by itself, and you can go ahead and get it 15% off with code YouTube15. That's going to do it for us. Hope everyone has a happy and healthy Thanksgiving. For Mario Puig, I'm John McKechnie. Thanks for listening.